Olivia Chisholm stood at the busy Murtala Muhammad Airport, her suitcase beside her and her heart full of excitement. This trip was supposed to change everything. She and her fiancé Tchukwu had planned it for months. A trip to Dubai for a big international fashion expo. For Olivia, it wasn't just a flight, it was the beginning of her dream. Her small fashion brand was finally being noticed, and this expo could open doors she had prayed for. She had even designed a special outfit for the trip, a beautiful Ankara blazer that made her feel proud of her roots. As she checked the time, she smiled, imagining their photos together at the airport, the takeoff, the future they had always talked about. Tchukwu was on his phone, pacing and talking about investors and opportunities. But she didn't mind. She believed they were a team, his business mind and her creative heart. She had no idea the man she loved was about to change her life in the most painful way. Still, at that moment she held on to hope. Her boarding pass in one hand, her heart in the other. Olivia believed she was flying toward her destiny. The final boarding call echoed through the airport speakers, and Olivia smiled, ready to walk hand in hand with Tchukwu toward the gate. But suddenly, his voice turned cold, sharp in a way she had never heard before. "Olivia," he said quietly, not meeting her eyes, "I think you should stay back. You'll embarrass me in front of the investors. You're not polished enough for this kind of trip." For a moment she thought it was a joke. She laughed softly, waiting for him to smile back. But his face stayed hard, his tone final. "I'll handle the expo myself. You can join later, maybe." Her heart dropped. "Tchukwu, what are you saying? We planned this together." He cut her off with a sigh, eyes darting around as if he was ashamed to be seen with her. "Please, Olivia. Don't make a scene. I have an image to protect." And just like that, he turned and walked away, blending into the line of passengers boarding the plane. Olivia froze. The boarding pass slipped from her fingers. She watched through blurry tears as the man she loved, the one who once promised forever, walked out of her life like she was nothing. Her legs felt weak. People around her stared, whispering softly, some in pity, some in judgment. A flight attendant gave her a sad look and said, "Miss, are you boarding?" She couldn't even answer. Her lips trembled, her chest tight. She sank onto a chair, clutching her bag like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. In that cold airport air, surrounded by strangers and silence, Olivia realized something that broke her even more. He had never planned to take her with him. The man she trusted had just left her behind, not just at the gate, but in life. Olivia stood frozen as the gate closed. The plane that was supposed to carry her dreams, and her fiancé, had just taken off without her. Around her, people whispered, "Did he just leave her?" One woman murmured. Another shook her head, pity in her eyes. Olivia tried to ignore them, but every word felt like a knife cutting deeper into her heart. Her chest tightened. She blinked fast, trying to stop the tears, but one slipped down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, pretending to check her phone. There were no new messages, no missed calls, not even a text from Tchukwu. She opened their chat, hoping maybe he'd explain, maybe say it was a misunderstanding. But the last message was hers. "I'm here, love. Can't wait to fly with you. Seen." No reply. The airport announcer's voice echoed over the speakers, calm, robotic, emotionless, but to her it sounded like mockery. "Flight EK-208 to Dubai has departed. Gone." Just like that. Her dream trip, her relationship, her peace. Gone in one moment. She sank onto her suitcase, surrounded by people rushing past her, all heading somewhere. But she had nowhere to go. The girl who came to the airport full of excitement now sat there like a forgotten story. She scrolled through her phone, searching for a distraction. Maybe a friend to call, maybe someone to talk to. But her screen stayed empty. Everyone she wanted to reach felt far away. Olivia's reflection in the glass window caught her eye, her mascara slightly smudged, her eyes red, her spirit shattered. Yet somewhere deep inside, a tiny voice whispered, "Don't cry too long." He walked away, but your story isn't over. She didn't know it yet, but that heartbreaking scene, a woman left behind at the gate, was the moment destiny quietly began to rewrite her life. Olivia sat there in silence, her eyes still fixed on the glass where the plane had disappeared into the sky. She felt hollow, like her heart had been left on that runway. Around her, people came and went, but one man nearby didn't. He had been watching quietly from a distance, noticing the pain in her eyes and the way she tried so hard to hold herself together. He was tall, calm, and confident, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy blue kaftan that spoke of quiet class. After a moment, he walked toward her, not out of pity, but with a kind of gentle concern. "Excuse me," he said softly, his voice warm but steady. "Are you okay, miss?" Olivia looked up, quickly brushing a tear away. She forced a weak smile, the kind people wear when they're trying not to fall apart. "I'm fine," she said, even though her voice trembled a little. He looked at her for a second, then smiled kindly. "You don't have to be," he said, pulling out a clean white handkerchief and handing it to her. "Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Sometimes, losing someone is the best thing that can happen to you." His words hit her heart like truth she didn't want to hear but needed to. She took the handkerchief with shaking hands, whispering, "Thank you." He nodded, stepping back slightly, giving her space but not leaving. There was something grounding about his presence, calm, respectful, almost protective. For the first time that morning, Olivia didn't feel completely invisible. As the crowd moved around them, she looked at the stranger and wondered who he was. His eyes carried understanding, like he'd seen heartbreak before but turned it into strength. She didn't know it yet, but this small act of kindness, from a man she'd never met, was about to change the entire direction of her life. Olivia sat quietly, still holding the handkerchief he'd given her. The stranger stood nearby, giving her a moment to breathe. For the first time since Tuchukwu left, the world felt a little less cruel. Then suddenly his phone rang. A sleek, expensive phone that buzzed softly in his hand. "Excuse me," he said politely, stepping a few feet away to take the call. His tone changed, calm but commanding. "Yes, tell Mr. Martins I'll be in Dubai in 5 hours. Yes, the jet is ready. Make sure the files are on board." Olivia's eyes widened. The jet? She blinked, thinking she must have misheard. Who was this man? He didn't look like someone ordinary. Everything about him spoke of quiet power. When he ended the call and turned back toward her, she tried to hide her surprise, but he caught it immediately. A small smile tugged at his lips. "You were supposed to fly to Dubai, right?" he asked. Olivia hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I was. But I guess plans changed." He looked at her thoughtfully for a moment. "Well," he said, his tone light but sincere, "my flight still has space. You could come along, if you don't mind flying private." Olivia blinked, unsure if he was joking. "Private? You mean like a private jet?" He chuckled softly. "Exactly that. It's headed to Dubai anyway. I hate flying alone." For a second, Olivia didn't know what to say. Just an hour ago, she had been abandoned, broken, and humiliated. Now a total stranger, one who apparently owned a private jet, was offering her a seat to the same destination she'd been left behind from. It felt unreal, like life itself was trying to apologize for what had just happened. She looked up at him, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or say yes, but deep down something told her. This wasn't just coincidence. This was fate opening another door. Olivia stared at him, unsure if she'd heard right. A private jet? From a stranger? It sounded too unbelievable to be real. She clutched her bag tighter, her voice quiet but cautious. I don't even know your name," she said softly, searching his eyes for some kind of clue. He chuckled, the sound calm and confident. "That's fair," he replied, holding out his hand. "I'm Adrian Kalu." He paused for a moment, watching the recognition flicker in her eyes before adding, "CEO of Kalu Holdings." Olivia blinked. The name rang a bell. Kalu Holdings was one of the biggest investment firms in Nigeria, a name she had heard Tuchukwu mention more than once in his business talks. Her heart skipped. "Wait, Kalu Holdings?" she asked slowly, her voice shaking a little. "You're that Adrian Kalu?" He smiled knowingly. "The same. And if I'm not mistaken, Tuchukwu works with a few of my investment partners." Olivia's eyes widened in disbelief. "You know Tuchukwu?" Adrian nodded, his tone calm but layered with meaning. "Very well," he said, glancing at her with a slight smirk. "Let's just say, this will be a very interesting flight." Olivia didn't know whether to laugh or gasp. The man who had just offered her a ride to Dubai was not only successful and kind, he was one of Tuchukwu's investors. The irony hit her like a wave. Her heart raced. Part of her still hesitated. Could she really trust a stranger? But something about Adrian's presence felt safe, grounded. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was simply being real, calm, and surprisingly understanding. She looked at him, then at the empty gate where Tchukwu had left her, and whispered almost to herself, "Maybe God really doesn't close a door without opening another." Adrian smiled gently. "Exactly," he said. "Now are you ready to see what your new door looks like?" Minutes later, Olivia could hardly believe what was happening. The same airport where she'd been left heartbroken now led her to a gleaming white private jet parked under the golden Lego sun. The air smelled of jet fuel and sea breeze, and everything around her felt like a scene from a movie. Only this time, she wasn't the girl being left behind. She was the one being invited forward. Adrian walked beside her, calm and confident, as a crew member greeted them with a polite smile. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Kalu." The door to the jet opened smoothly, revealing a world Olivia had never seen before. Soft cream leather seats, warm lighting, quiet music playing in the background, and the faint scent of expensive cologne mixed with lavender. She paused at the entrance, almost afraid to step in. "Are you sure I can?" Adrian turned to her with an easy smile. "Olivia, you've had a rough morning. The least I can do is make sure your day ends differently." She finally stepped inside, her fingers brushing against the polished table surface as she sat down. Everything felt unreal. Just a few hours ago, she had been crying at the gate. Now she was on a private jet with one of the most powerful men in Nigeria. Adrian poured her a glass of juice and handed it to her. "Here," he said softly. "You look like someone who needs to breathe again." Olivia smiled faintly, the warmth of the cabin melting away her cold memories. "Thank you," she whispered. He leaned back in his seat, studying her for a moment before saying something that would stay with her forever. "Sometimes rejection doesn't destroy you. It redirects you to your destiny." Olivia looked out the window as the jet began to move. The engines roared, the world below started to shrink, and for the first time that day she smiled. Not because of what she lost, but because of what she was finally stepping into. As the jet soared smoothly above the clouds, the world below looked small and distant, just like Olivia's heartbreak. The sky outside was painted in shades of gold and white, and the hum of the engine filled the quiet cabin. For a while she said nothing, still trying to process how life had turned around in just a few hours. Adrian, sitting across from her, watched calmly, giving her space to breathe. Finally, he broke the silence with a gentle smile. "So, tell me about you, Olivia. What do you do when you're not being left behind by unworthy men at airports?" She let out a small laugh, the first real one since morning. "I run a fashion brand," she said shyly. "It's small for now, but it's my dream. I design modern outfits using African prints, pieces that tell our stories in bold colors and strong lines. I want the world to see Africa through beauty and pride, not pity." As she spoke, her voice grew stronger, more alive. Her hands moved as she described her work, the fabrics she used, and how she wanted women to feel powerful wearing her designs. For a moment she forgot the pain. She was glowing. A woman talking about what she loved. Adrian leaned back, listening carefully, his eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "You know," he said softly, "you don't need anyone's validation. You already have what most people spend their whole lives searching for: purpose." Olivia smiled faintly, surprised by how deeply his words touched her. "Sometimes it just feels like no one sees it," she whispered. He leaned forward slightly, his tone steady and sincere. "Then maybe what you need isn't more approval," he said, "but a bigger platform. And I can give you one." Her eyes widened, not sure she heard right. "What do you mean?" He smiled, a mix of mystery and warmth. "You'll see soon enough. Destiny has a funny way of connecting people at the right time." Olivia looked out the window again, her reflection mixing with the clouds, and in Dubai, the International Fashion Expo buzzed with energy. Bright lights, famous designers, and global investors filled the grand hall. Tchukwu walked among them with a confident smile, shaking hands and bragging about his upcoming deals. He wore his best suit and carried himself like a man who had everything under control. When someone asked about his fiancée, he laughed casually. "Oh, Olivia? I had to leave some distractions behind," he said proudly. "Business comes first." The investors chuckled politely, impressed by his focus. Tchukwu felt powerful, certain that leaving her behind was the smart move. But fate was already setting the stage for his humiliation. Just as he began his presentation, the large double doors of the expo hall opened. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Cameras clicked. Adrian Kalu entered, tall, composed, every bit the powerful man investors admired. But what caught everyone's attention wasn't just Adrian. It was the woman walking beside him. Olivia. She looked breathtaking in a fitted Ankara gown that shimmered under the lights, bold, graceful, and undeniably confident. Her natural hair framed her face beautifully, and the pain in her eyes had transformed into quiet strength. She wasn't the same woman who was left crying at the airport. She was glowing, radiant with purpose. Tchukwu froze mid-sentence. His smile disappeared. "Oh, Olivia?" he stammered, almost choking on her name. Adrian glanced in his direction but didn't stop walking. Olivia carried a sleek black folder filled with business documents. Her business documents. When they reached the main stage, the announcer greeted them warmly. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Adrian Kalu of Kalu Holdings, and his newest collaborator Olivia Chisholm, founder of Olivia Afrique." The entire room erupted in whispers and applause. Cameras flashed, capturing Tchukwu's face as the truth hit him. The woman he called a distraction had just arrived as the star of the S. The hall went silent for a few seconds, and then whispers started spreading like wildfire. Heads turned. Cameras flashed. Everyone was talking, but all eyes were on one woman, Olivia Chisholm. "Isn't that Olivia?" someone whispered. "Wait, she came with Adrian Kalu?" another gasped, pulling out their phone to record the moment. Olivia walked with calm confidence beside Adrian, her Ankara gown flowing gracefully as the crowd parted for them. Every step she took echoed louder than the last, as if the universe itself was making sure Tchukwu heard it. Tchukwu stood frozen near the presentation screen, his confidence gone. His mouth fell open, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" Olivia turned to him slowly, her expression calm but sharp, the kind of calm that comes after deep pain. She smiled softly, almost kindly, but there was power in her eyes. "Oh," she said in a steady voice that carried across the room. "I came on the investor's jet." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The investors Tchukwu had been trying to impress now looked from him to Olivia, curiosity written all over their faces. Some whispered to each other. One even chuckled quietly, clearly amused by the irony. Tchukwu's throat went dry. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The same woman he had left at the airport, standing beside one of the most powerful men in the room, looking like she owned the place. Olivia, however, didn't gloat. She didn't shout or embarrass him. Her silence was louder than revenge. She simply turned back to Adrian, who smiled at her proudly. The two of them walked toward the main stage together, leaving Tchukwu standing there, small, stunned, and speechless. And in that moment everyone watching understood. The woman he left behind had just arrived, and she was shining brighter than ever. The lights dimmed slightly as Adrian took the microphone. The room fell silent, every investor, designer, and journalist waiting for his announcement. Tchukwu stood among them, trying to steady his breathing, hoping this wasn't what it looked like. But deep down he already knew it was over. Adrian's voice was clear, confident, and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began with a smile, "it's an honor to introduce someone whose creativity and vision captured my attention the moment I saw her work." He turned slightly toward Olivia, his eyes full of respect. "Meet the creative mind behind our new collaboration, Olivia by Kalu Holdings." The room erupted. Applause thundered through the hall. Cameras flashed from every corner. Olivia stood there, graceful and poised, her smile warm but controlled. For a brief second, she scanned the room, and her eyes landed on Tchukwu. His face had turned pale. His lips parted slightly but no words came out. The man who once told her she wasn't polished enough was now watching her being celebrated by the same investors he had bragged to. The irony was almost too heavy for him to bear. People rushed toward Adrian and Olivia to congratulate them. Reporters asked questions, designers praised her work, and social media influencers started filming, whispering her name like she was the story of the night. Olivia smiled through it all, carrying herself with quiet pride. Tchukwu stood in the corner, his confidence shattered. Every laugh, every camera flash, every handshake around her felt like the world reminding him of his mistake. He had traded loyalty for ego, and lost both love and opportunity in the same moment. Adrian glanced at him once, just long enough to make the message clear without saying a word. Then he turned back to Olivia. "Shall we sign the partnership documents?" he asked smoothly. Olivia nodded, her eyes shining. "Let's make it official." As their signatures hit the paper, the power shifted completely. After the event, Olivia stepped backstage to catch her breath. The applause from the audience still echoed in the hall, but she needed a quiet moment to process everything that had just happened. She was signing autographs, answering quick congratulations, when she suddenly heard a familiar voice behind her. "Olivia, please." She froze. That voice, she knew it too well. Turning slowly, she saw Tchukwu standing there. His once perfect suit looked wrinkled, his face pale and desperate. Gone was the confident man from earlier. In front of her stood someone small, humbled, and full of regret. He took a hesitant step closer. "Olivia, I didn't mean to hurt you," he said quickly, his voice trembling. I thought you weren't ready yet. I wanted to protect our image, that's all." Olivia looked at him quietly, her expression calm but unreadable. She had imagined this moment before, what she'd say if he ever came back, but now that it was here, she felt no anger, just clarity. "You thought I was beneath you," she said softly, her tone firm but not cruel. "You wanted to build a life where I didn't fit in. But you see, Tchukwu." She paused, her voice steady, her eyes shining. "You'll realize one day, I was the best thing you never valued." Her words hung in the air, sharp and unforgettable. Tchukwu opened his mouth to speak again, but nothing came out. He could only watch as Olivia turned away. She lifted her head high, her gown catching the light as she walked back toward Adrian and the waiting cameras. Each step she took echoed like a drumbeat of triumph, the sound of a woman who had been broken and rebuilt herself stronger. Behind her, Tchukwu stood frozen, staring at the woman he once dismissed, now untouchable, unstoppable, and finally free. Back in the expo hall, someone from the press had caught the entire moment on camera. Olivia walking beside Adrian, poised and radiant, while Tchukwu looked on helplessly. Within minutes, the video made its way onto social media. One caption went viral almost instantly. "He left her at the airport. She returned on his investor's jet." The post spread like wildfire. People couldn't stop sharing it. Within hours, it had thousands of likes, comments, and shares. The hashtags trended. #Olivia rises, #airport to power, #he left her she rose. Every swipe on a phone screen showed the story of a woman who refused to be broken. Comments poured in from all over the world. "This is goals," one person wrote. "She turned heartbreak into success." Another typed, "Watch and learn. Never let anyone define your worth." Even news outlets picked it up, running headlines that praised Olivia's courage, style, and determination. Olivia herself didn't see the post immediately. She was backstage signing documents, talking to Adrian, and meeting new collaborators. But when someone showed her the video, she couldn't help but laugh softly. The world was seeing what she had always known. Leaving her at the airport didn't stop her, it gave her wings. Tchukwu, on the other hand, could barely look at his phone. Everywhere he turned, there was Olivia's face, confident and glowing, and the story of his betrayal splashed across every screen. He realized, painfully, that the woman he had tried to humiliate had become a symbol of empowerment, inspiring thousands with just one moment of courage. Olivia leaned back, letting the applause from both the expo and the online world wash over her. She felt a quiet satisfaction, not from revenge, but from knowing she had taken her pain and transformed it into something unstoppable. The airport tears, the humiliation, the heartbreak, it had all led to this viral moment, a story of triumph that no one could ignore. And in that moment, Olivia knew one. Weeks later, Olivia stood on a brightly lit stage in front of cameras and microphones, her heart pounding with excitement, not fear. Her fashion brand, once small and unknown, had officially launched internationally. Stores in London, New York, and Paris now carried her designs, bold African prints transformed into modern, elegant fashion. The journey from airport humiliation to global recognition had been long, but every step had been worth it. She adjusted the collar of her tailored Ankara blazer and smiled at the camera, her voice calm but full of strength. "Don't chase people who can't see your worth," she said, looking directly into the lens. "Sometimes life delays you not to punish you, but to let you arrive in style. Her words struck a chord with everyone watching. Viewers across continents paused, rewound, and shared her message. Comments flooded social media. She speaks truth. This is empowerment. From heartbreak to queen status. Olivia didn't just represent fashion now. She represented resilience, courage, and grace. Backstage, she watched snippets of herself on the screens, her own smile reflecting pride and calm confidence. This wasn't just a victory over Tochukwu or anyone who doubted her. This was a victory over every fear, every tear, every moment she had felt small. She realized she had grown stronger than she ever imagined. Adrian, standing beside her, leaned in and whispered, "You've inspired thousands today." Olivia nodded, her eyes shining, but her heart stayed humble. "It's not about me," she said softly. "It's about showing people that no matter how low life knocks you down, you can rise higher than you ever dreamed." And rise she did. Across social media, in conversations, and on news channels, her story spread. Women and men alike felt empowered to stand taller, chase their dreams, and never let someone else's judgment define their future. In that moment, Olivia wasn't just a fashion designer. She was a symbol, a woman who. Months later, Olivia walked into a grand gala, the kind where chandeliers sparkled and cameras flashed at every turn. She wore a custom gold osseote gown that hugged her perfectly and shimmered under the lights. Her hair was styled elegantly, her makeup flawless, but it wasn't just her look that turned heads. It was the confidence she carried. Every step she took radiated grace and strength. As she entered the ballroom, her eyes scanned the crowd. And then she saw him, Tochukwu. He wasn't standing tall like before. Instead, he was busy working under another brand, clearly no longer the center of attention. Their eyes met briefly, and for a moment, it felt like the world paused. Olivia's lips curved into a calm, knowing smile. No words were needed, she had already won. She lifted her glass, her fingers steady, and turned toward Adrian, who was waiting for her with a proud smile. He was no longer just a stranger who had offered her a seat on a jet. He was her business partner, her ally, the person who had quietly helped her rise to the place she deserved. The same airport that had seen her tears months ago had now witnessed her wings. Every humiliation, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt had led to this. Olivia had come full circle, from being left behind to flying higher than anyone could have imagined. She raised her glass again, this time to herself, to resilience, and to the unstoppable woman she had become.